although he's quieter on the subject now than in days past, President Trump has not backed down from his criticisms of the way mayors in some of the largest cities in this country have handled protests and rioting in the wake of George Floyd's death. And he's leaving open the possibility of sending U.S. troops into some cities to quell the rioting we've seen the last few days. We'll get reaction to that now from our good friend Antonio Villaraigosa, the former mayor of Los Angeles. Let's start right there. Mayor, what was your reaction to his threat to call in the U.S. troops?
Unbelievable. The language that he used. I've never heard a president talk like that. At least the president of the United States of America and not some banana republic. Even his defense secretary tried to walk away from those comments and indicated that they weren't considering putting troops in our cities against our people who have a constitutional right to protest. As I said, it was unbelievable. It was actually quite scary.
What do you make of the reaction we've had in America? Protests, riots all over, and it doesn't seem to calm down.
Well, it doesn't seem to calm down. And I think when yesterday, for a good part of the day, I saw demonstrations and marches all across the country. And in fact, it filled me with emotion. It filled me with emotion that so many people of every race and creed from city across the nation protesting the murder of a African-American man at the hands of law enforcement in Minneapolis. It actually brought a lot of emotion to me. On the other hand, some of what I saw in Los Angeles and other cities, the looting, the rioting, absolutely unacceptable. People have said that we have to understand that people are angry. Yes, we're angry, and that's why we march. That's why we need to vote. That's why we need to be involved. I've been involved since I was 15 years old, Larry. Since I was a kid, started with the Black Student Union and United Mexican American Students in high school, with the farm worker boycott, standing up for immigrants. I understand the fight for economic and racial justice, the fight against racial oppression. But the people that were rioting weren't marching peacefully, and importantly, they weren't marching against racial oppression. They were taking advantage of the situation. And we need to stand up and say no. No to that kind of behavior, and yes to peaceful protest all across the country. Yes to fighting racial oppression and racial discrimination and bigotry, whether it's against Jews or Mexicans or blacks or Asians or whites. But we know that too often black men die at the hands of police. Too often they're incarcerated at levels disproportionate to their offense and disparate to what whites are often jailed for. And we have to do something about it. We absolutely do.
Okay, when the LA riots occurred, then President George H.W. Bush delivered an Oval Office address to the nation. Now, Trump is not known for his empathy, but do you think he should deliver an Oval Office address to the nation?
I wouldn't trust that if he delivered an Oval Office address, that it would be one with empathy and compassion, one that understood why people are so angry and hurt with what's happened in Minneapolis and in cities across the country. Let's be clear. It happens again and again and again. And it's happened, for a very, very long time. Now we have cell phones and people can take pictures and videos. We didn't have that before, but we know it happened. I grew up on the east side of Los Angeles, and I can tell you as a young boy that we were often as terrified of law enforcement as we were of the gangs. Now, a lot has changed, and the vast majority of our law enforcement officers understand nobody's above the law. Not a politician, not a priest, or a police officer. And I think what we all have to say, coming out of what's happened in Minneapolis and in cities across the country, that we're not going to tolerate this anymore, that we're going to hold people accountable, that every one of us have to be accountable for our actions, no matter who we are.
Joe Biden said that Trump is more interested in serving the passions of his base than the needs of the people. Biden also said he would try to heal racial wounds. What do you make of his remarks?
Well, I agree with those remarks, except I think they weren't strong enough. Um, Donald Trump has been the Pied Piper of white nationalism. He's condoned uh, white nationalism in our country. He's divided our people on the head of a pin in a way that I've never seen a modern U.S. president do. Um, I think he wasn't strong enough in challenging Donald Trump. Donald Trump needs to be called on the carpet for the way he talks, for the way he divides, for the way he pits one person against another, one community against another, one race against another. Look, what we need right now is healing. We need the peacemakers I tweeted on Sunday morning. We need to replicate what I saw in Louisville, where a group of protesters, all of whom were African American, with their mask on, defending and encircling a white police officer who was about to be mobbed. We need the peacemakers who understand that we have to challenge racism and racial oppression and injustice in our country, while at the same time bringing people together of every race. If there was something positive about the marches that gave me some emotion, Larry, is that it wasn't just like the 1960s, a black march, or like, the 1990s, a black and Latino march. This was everyone. It was beautiful to see. People understand. We want to be the country that we've always held itself out to be. A country where you could start at the bottom and go to the top no matter what you look like, no matter if your parents came from Russia or Mexico or Africa or Asia. And that's what we want in our country. We want to be that beacon of liberty and hope and opportunity. And we're not that country right now. And so I think we need to work across party lines, across racial lines, across, religious lines together to fight for that country. Larry?
On the political end, Biden has pledged to pick a woman for a running mate. Do you have anyone in mind? Anyone you'd prefer?
Well, I've already gone on record of saying that I think California Senator Kamala Harris would be great. When asked, I've also said that Karen Bass, Congresswoman, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, is another great candidate. I'd like to see, a woman, as he has said he's going to pick, but also somebody from California who really understands that the Golden State is the most diverse place in America, a place where we revel in the fact that we come from every nation in the earth. Somebody who has experience with the vast diversity of California.
You're the current mayor, Eric Garcetti, holding the post you once held. He took a knee this week during a protest over the death of the killing of Floyd, but he's also facing a backlash for deploying the National Guard. How well has he handled this?
Well, look, I'm not a Monday morning quarterback. I had my 8 years, Larry. I'm not afraid to criticize someone when criticism is necessary, but frankly, Um, I've been in that job. I know the heat that comes with that job. And I think uh, Mayor Garcetti has conducted himself well during the COVID-19 crisis and now. But I'll let the Monday morning quarterbacks assess him more deeply and more broadly.
Well, where do you think all of this is going? Are we going to have conventions? Are we going to have a well-run national election?
Well, I agree with President Obama when he said, look, we need to march, we need to demonstrate, we need to fight, and we need to vote. We need to vote. I guarantee you, there are many people who march. I've been marching my whole life. I was one of the people organizing immigrant rights marches, marches against racism in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And I can tell you, I spent my whole life doing that. But I also know that you got to vote to change the circumstances in which you live. And so it's important to me, and I think important to all of us, that all of those people who have been marching march to the polls in November. Vote for change. Vote for a president who's going to unite us. I think that's president. I think that's the Democratic nominee, or soon to be, Joe Biden.
Mayor, it's always great seeing you. Thanks so much.
It's always great to see you. I can tell you that every time I do, I think, I want to be like him when I grow up. I really do. You're great at what you do, and you're
Thank
somebody I
you.
have a great deal of respect for. So thank you.